Now, you know that I hate the nanny state. I know most of you do too. So we campaign against it. We've got to do that. It's long been a growing problem in this country, probably around the world as well. There's hardly an area of our lives where governments, bureaucrats, councils and busybodies are not trying to intrude, to save us from ourselves and to control how we live. Nothing proved how insidious the nanny state is like the pandemic. In case anyone doubted it, we saw just how quickly governments and bureaucrats were happy to impose draconian rules, how they used fear to control us, how so many of us were too meek to complain, how so many people actually were so eager to play along that they were happy to dob in their neighbours or admonish others for not obeying these overbearing rules. Those rules always looked over the top, didn't they? We called them out from the outset, but now they're revealed by the science to have been absurd and redundant. I mean, they banned us for beaches. Banned us, kicked people off beaches, for crying out loud. They banned us from sitting in the park, in the sunshine. They made masks mandatory outdoors. They stopped people from crossing state borders or going to their loved ones' funerals. And we went along with it. Shame on us. Shame on all of us, I reckon. We look at these Chinese protesters now and we cheer them on as brave freedom fighters challenging a totalitarian regime over extended lockdowns. Yet our media and politicians were almost universal in denouncing anti-lockdown protesters here. They were deemed far-right extremists. Well, some of them were nutters, no doubt, but by no means all of them. The hypocrisy is pretty obvious, isn't it? The wonder if we didn't have more protesters. That's what I wonder. Why didn't we have more protesters during those lockdowns? So never forget our complicity, our compliance, our gullibility. And we should take this as a warning to always guard against the nanny state. It's always expanding, and the pandemic just put it on steroids for a while. So I want to show you the winners of the Nanny State Awards handed out by the Centre for Independent Studies last night. The thing is, they had so much to choose from that some of the most alarming examples didn't even get an award. For instance, there's the 66-year-old Scottish man, Leslie Sinclair, who's generously donated blood all of his life and figured that as a man, it would be ridiculous for him to answer a new question on the form about whether he was pregnant or had been pregnant recently. Without the box ticked, the donation centre refused to take his blood. This is true. It really happened. Unless a man answered the pregnancy question, they would not take his blood. Never mind the patients who might need the blood. Indeed, Sinclair told the media he was actually angered since vulnerable people, including children, are in desperate need of donations. But they've been denied my blood because of the obligation to answer a question that can't possibly be answered, Sinclair told the Daily Mail. Yet the more genders they come up with, the more they seem to forget about basic biology. So let's go to an episode that did get an award. This time it's the Lifetime Achievement Nanny State Award from the CIS that went to the Australian Medical Association. One of their interventions this year was to call for a sugar tax on soft drinks and the like. They want to emulate the UK, apparently, and weren't dissuaded by the fact that this is a very healthy nation. We have the third highest life expectancy in the world. But the nanny staters always want to make you do better, make you do as they say.
I think we do need something like a sugar tax on sugary drinks. That's a low-hanging fruit. It's a signal to everybody that sugar is an issue.
Yeah, how sweet is that, hey? Forget personal responsibility, forget all things in good measure, forget unintended consequences that could occur, economic or otherwise. Just solve all the problems of the world with taxes. Control people's behaviour through taxation. What could be more nanny state than that? Well, let's go to this year's third place winner, the bronze medal. It's gone to Queensland's Palaszczuk Labor government for promising to eliminate all coal-fired generation by 2035, mind you. This means a state that's had trouble building any dams at all will have to build dozens of them for pumped hydro in just over a decade. And it means a massive build-out of wind farms and a practically impossible reliance on wind generation. But never mind any of these challenges, actually they're insurmountable hurdles, never mind any of that, because the Premier reckons wind farms will be tourist attractions.
I think we should have viewing platforms for families to come out here and actually see what is in their own backyard. It's just over a 2.5-hour drive from Brisbane.
Queensland. Beautiful beaches and sunshine one day, bloody great wind farms the next. Hold me back. Now, the silver medal from the Centre for Independent Studies this year went to the push to make us drive slower, much slower. There is a push on from experts and local governments and others to lower speed limits, not to 50 kilometres per hour or 40 k's, but to 30 kilometres per hour. This sort of stuff has been trialled here and there in the past. Here's an old news report that highlights the logic.
In an Australian first, speed limits will be lowered to 30 kilometres an hour in residential streets throughout parts of Melbourne. The new speed zones will come into effect from September in Collingwood and Fitzroy and will serve as a test case. The new trial is an attempt to curb the number of accidents in Melbourne's current 40 kilometre an hour sections of road.
Got to stop those people doing 40, hey? Yep. The slower you go, the safer it'll be, rather obviously. But it can't be long, say the Nanny State judging panel, till cars might be limited to walking pace and have to have someone walking in front waving a flag in front of the car, like in the olden days when they first brought them in. Kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a car, doesn't it? So with examples like that in second and third place for the Nanny State Award, what was the winner? Well, the first prize from the Centre for Independent Studies for the Nanny State interventions in 2022 has gone to the animal rights group PETA. Why? Well, because they have campaigned to change the name of Wool Street in Melbourne's outer suburb of Melton. They don't like Wool Street. Wool Street offends them because of what they call the abuse of sheep and the environmental harm from the wool industry. It turns out it's not even an original idea. The same campaign was launched against the village of Wool in England a few years back. And no, I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. You have not been fleeced. This was a real campaign. The Nanny State is alive and well, and unless we push back, we'll all suffer, as we've seen. In fact, we'll all be led along like lambs to the slaughter.